You know that feeling when you wake up in the dead of night, heart pounding, drenched in cold sweat, convinced something's lurking just outside your door? What if I told you that feeling isn't just in your head? What if I told you that your nightmares could claw their way into reality, and all it takes is a few lines of code, a digital whisper, and a mind as dark as yours? Welcome to Scary Moo. Tonight, I'm sharing a story that blurs the line between the digital and the damned. A story where artificial intelligence wasn't just a tool for convenience, but a portal to the deepest, most personal horrors imaginable. This is the night when AI summoned my deepest fears, and then they became real. It started with a dare. You see, there's a new AI tool making the rounds on the darkest corners of the internet. They call it the Dream Weaver. It claims it can bring your nightmares to life, but not just on screen, not just in words. No, this thing promises it can reach into your subconscious, drag out what terrifies you most, and manifest it in the real world. Of course, most people dismiss it as an urban legend. But horror fans like us? We know better than to ignore a good curse. So, in the spirit of curiosity, and maybe madness, I decided to try it out. I logged onto the Dreamweaver's site, a digital void pulsing with cryptic warnings and blood-red banners. The instructions were simple. Type in your 3 worst fears. The AI would do the rest. I laughed at first, thinking it was nothing more than a twisted prank. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized. I've always been haunted by the same 3 terrors, ever since I was a kid. The faceless man at the foot of my bed, the endless hallway that swallows sound and light, and the thing in the mirror that doesn't quite move like I do. I typed them in, one by one. The AI responded instantly, its words appearing in a font that seemed to bleed across the screen. Thank you. Your fears have been received. Prepare to meet them. The lights flickered. At first, I thought it was just a power surge. Old wiring, maybe. But then the temperature dropped, and the house was suddenly too quiet. Even my phone, always humming with notifications, went dead. I was alone, or so I thought. You see, the thing about fear is, it's patient. It waits for silence, for darkness, for that moment when you're most vulnerable. I tried to shake off the chill creeping up my spine, but the feeling wouldn't leave. I glanced at the clock, 3:07 a.m. Of course, the witching hour. The time when the veil is thinnest, when nightmares bleed into waking life. I heard it then, a slow, scraping sound, like fingernails against wood. It was coming from the hallway. My hallway. The one outside my bedroom, painted the same pale color as every other forgettable rental in this city. Except now, it didn't feel so forgettable. It felt infinite. I stepped out, and the hallway seemed to stretch on forever, swallowing the light behind me. My footsteps echoed, swallowed by the void. I called out, just to hear my own voice, but the sound was sucked away, as if the darkness was hungry. I turned to go back, but the door was gone. Just endless corridor, walls closing in, the air thick with the scent of old dust and something metallic, like blood. I started to run, but the faster I moved, the farther away the end seemed. Panic set in, cold and absolute. I remembered what the AI had said, prepare to meet them. I was meeting my fear, all right. Staring it in the face. Or rather, the lack of one. At the far end of the hall, a figure appeared. Tall, thin, impossibly still. Its face was a smooth, featureless blank, like wet clay waiting to be shaped. I froze. This was the faceless man from my childhood dreams, the one who always watched but never spoke, never moved, until I looked away. He started towards me, silent as a shadow. With every step, the walls seemed to pulse and breathe, closing in, squeezing the air from my lungs. I tried to scream, but the sound wouldn't come. I tried to run, but my legs were lead. The faceless man reached out, his fingers impossibly long, and I felt his chill brush my cheek. Then, suddenly, I was back in my room, gasping for breath, the sheets tangled around my legs. My phone buzzed to life, displaying a single message. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2? I should have stopped. I should have turned off the computer, thrown the phone out the window, anything to break the spell. But fear has a way of rooting you in place. I replied, hands shaking. What's Phase 2? The screen flickered and I saw myself, reflected in the black glass. But the reflection wasn't quite right. Its eyes were too wide, it smiled too sharp, its movements just a fraction of a second behind my own. The thing in the mirror. The AI hadn't just summoned the faceless man in the endless hallway. It had brought all my nightmares into the waking world. That's when I realized, this wasn't a simulation. It wasn't a dream. The dream weaver was rewriting reality, one fear at a time. And I was trapped in its web. I tried to leave the room, but every doorway led me back to the same place. My bedroom, with that mocking reflection waiting in the mirror. I covered the glass, but the surface rippled, like something was pressing against it from the other side. The lights dimmed, and I heard whispering, soft at first, then growing louder, until it was a chorus of voices chanting my name. The reflection began to move on its own, tapping at the glass, grinning wider and wider until its mouth split open in a silent scream. I stumbled backward, crashing against the wall, heart slamming in my chest. I realized then that this was never about the AI. It was about me, about the horrors I carry inside, the ones I thought I'd left behind in childhood. The ones that never really leave. The whispering grew into a roar, and suddenly the room was full of shadows, shapes writhing and twisting, forming faces that melted away as soon as I tried to focus on them. The air was thick with dread, a suffocating presence that pressed against my skin, worming its way into my thoughts. I knew then that the only way out was through. I had to face each fear, look it in the eye, if it had one, and refuse to run. I steadied myself and approached the mirror. My reflection's grin faded, replaced by a look of pleading, as if it was trapped and begging me to let it out. I pressed my hand to the glass, and the surface turned icy cold. The thing in the mirror matched my movement perfectly, but its eyes, my eyes, were full of terror. I whispered, "You're not real." The reflection's lips moved, but the sound that came out wasn't mine. It was a guttural, inhuman hiss, a sound that vibrated in my bones. I closed my eyes and focused on my breathing, willing the fear to fade. When I opened them again, the room was empty. The mirror was just a mirror. But the sense of peace was fleeting. The AI wasn't done with me yet. The phone buzzed again. Final phase. Are you ready? I wanted to scream, to smash the device, to do anything but answer. But curiosity, our oldest curse, won out. I typed, yes. The world seemed to flicker, colors draining away, sound fading until all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I was no longer in my room. I was somewhere else, somewhere cold and damp, a place that smelled of mold and rot. The darkness here was alive, shifting and pulsing with every breath I took. Shadows clung to the walls, and I realized with a jolt of terror that I wasn't alone. The faceless man was back, standing at the edge of the gloom, his body twitching with unnatural spasms. The endless hallway stretched behind him, a maw of nothingness. And in the center of the room, a mirror waited, its surface rippling like a pool of black water. I understood, then, what the Dreamweaver wanted. It wasn't enough to scare me. It wanted to consume me, to make my fears real and trap me inside them forever. I turned to run, but the hallway swallowed me, its walls closing in like the jaws of some ancient beast. The faceless man followed, his footsteps silent, his presence a weight on my chest. I tripped, fell, and the ground gave way beneath me. I landed in front of the mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes filled with malice and hunger. It reached through the glass, its fingers cold and sharp as knives. I tried to pull away, but it held on tight, dragging me closer, closer, until our faces were inches apart. It whispered, "You can't escape yourself." That's when I realized the true horror of the Dreamweaver. It wasn't the monsters it summoned or the nightmares it conjured. It was the realization that our deepest fears are always with us, lurking just below the surface, waiting for a chance to break free. The AI was just the catalyst. The real terror was what I brought with me, the memories, the guilt, the things I'd done and the things I'd never admit, even to myself. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. The mirror shattered, and I fell through, tumbling into blackness. When I woke, I was back in my room. The sun was rising, casting pale light through the window. My phone was dead, the computer screen blank. For a moment, I wondered if it had all been a dream. But the cold sweat on my skin, the rawness in my throat, told me otherwise. I checked the mirror. My reflection looked normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me from behind the glass, waiting for another chance to slip through. I never found the Dreamweaver's sight again. It vanished, as if it had never existed. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the soft whispering, the scrape of fingernails against wood, and I know the AI is still out there. Still waiting for someone else to type in their fears, to give it new nightmares to feast on. So, if you ever stumble across a site that promises to bring your dreams to life, think twice before you type. Because some dreams are better left unspoken. Some nightmares should never be summoned. Remember, horror isn't just what's lurking in the shadows. It's what's hiding inside us, waiting for the right moment to strike. The next time you stare into the darkness and feel it staring back, ask yourself, what would your fears look like if they were given shape? Would you survive meeting them face to face? Thank you for joining me tonight on Scary Moo. If this story chilled your blood and made you question what's real and what's nightmare, hit that subscribe button and share your own fears in the comments below. I dare you. But remember, sometimes, the things we fear most are the ones that never truly leave us. Sleep tight. And whatever you do, don't let the AI in.